In order to focus and deepen our prayer for peace in the world, especially in Ukraine, and also to make our efforts towards peace much more fruitful and effective, we have to really know what's going on. We don't get that from the media. In either culture, let's face it, it's always very biased. They want us to believe what they want us to believe, whether it's here or in other countries. So we have to understand what's really going on. There are three elements of what's going on in the Ukraine, the war in Ukraine. The first one is a fundamental difference of two worldviews, East and West. The second one is both sides are presuming to have the spiritual high road. That's right. There's a spirituality factor in both of these, both sides. Spirituality is actually being used for agendas also. And the third thing is just a lust for power and for material wealth. We'll look at all these three things in a little more detail in the next few days, so we understand, again, what real prayer is and what real efforts should be in towards peace. The first one, the difference of worldviews. Eastern cultures, such as Russia and Putin, look at the United States and NATO as bringing into their cultures a certain decadence under the guise of things like human rights and equal rights. Decadence such as the LGBT agenda, same-sex marriage, and so on. And they see Ukraine as kind of a doorway to that into their countries, such as Russia. So Putin feels like he's defending his own country and saving the Ukrainians from themselves by, of course, bombing them. On the other hand, the West looks at the Eastern cultures, such as Russia, Communist China, as not preserving human rights, and of thinking nothing of assassinating your own opponents, people who don't agree with you, or silencing them, taking hold of the media and censoring it. And the West sees that as wrong. So both sides in this whole thing are actually trying to defend and promote their own worldviews. That's part of this. There's also two other parts, as I mentioned, which we're going to look at in more detail. We'll look at all three parts in more detail as we go through this series. But the important thing is to know the situation as fully as possible and be very clear. I want you to be very clear and try to hear me out clearly. I want you to think I'm taking the wrong side or anything like that or justifying anything. We have to know the real story in order to pray more effectively, to work more effectively towards world peace. After all, how good are our efforts so far? Could it be that the full story is not being told?